This is Jiang Cong Anthony from Peking University Law School, and I also a research assistant at the Peking University Law and AI Lab. So this work is a corporate work. I finished with my collaborator Liu Lu from Peking University Law and AI Lab. So today I will talk about what explainability does legal AI need. I will start from the legal intrusion perspective. First of all, let's take an overview of my presentation today. I will give it from 4 different parts. The first one is to give a short introduction to legal AI, including the history and the current development of legal AI. And the second is what the legal requirement on explainability of legal AI. The third one is how do judges make legal decision and explain their decision. And after that, I will give a short conclusion and suggestion. So let's first take an introduction of legal AI. Actually, there are many different types of legal AI. The first one is legal decision making, or we can also call it legal decision predicting. It's from different perspectives. If we take the AI as a judge, so we can call the work as a legal decision making. If we use the AI from publicity or from ordinary people, we can call the task as legal decision predicting. And there are other many different types of legal AI, such as argument generation, legal document generation, information retrieval from legal documents, and legal QA. So today I will focus on the first application of legal AI. Is most important and most frequent used in legal AI, the legal decision making. The goal is to use AI to replace or assist the human judges to make decisions. We can take the simple case as an example. Is a criminal case, and this is the fact description of this criminal case. That one day, some defendant stolen some cash and some shirts, jacket, and something else in some place. So given that fact, the judge will apply rules and use legal reasoning to give a legal decision. So this case is very simple, and the decision is the crime of theft. So what the legal AI is supposed to do is perform as the judges to give the same decision. And what does the motivation of using AI to do legal decision making? I think there are 2 main motivations. First of all is the goal to improve efficiency and reduce the workload of judges, because in China, China has 1.4 billion people, and there are many cases every day. And there is a statistic data that every judge in China will handle about 600 cases per year, and almost average 4 cases per working day in China. So it is really overwhelming work for every judges. And the second reason is to improve the consistency of legal decision in the whole legal system, because China has many provinces with different economic development. So the legal knowledge and the level of judges from different provinces may be very different. And how to develop a legal AI, there are actually two different approaches. The first approach really starts in the 1980s. It was called the first stage of AI. The first stage AI will use logic and knowledge representation approach. We can say some research work to transform the British Nationality Act and U.S. Trade Secrets Law into the formalized expression that the computer can understand and can process. But recent years, there is another approaches to use machine learning and data approach. We can say this is a very popular approaches around the world. We can see many applications in Europe, in China, in US, and some other countries like UK, French, India, and many other, Brazil. So let's turn back to the logic and knowledge representation approach. As you can see, it's very complicated. Even though as a legal student, as a legal master student, I cannot understand what the figure means. It's really complex. This program was made in 1980s. It was a logical model of trade secret law, and it's a set of rules derived from legal resources, such as the Uniform Trade Secret Act and the torts law in US. It is a US application of legal AI. But this application is very limited because it has two technical obstacles. The first one is formalization. Formalization means how to transform the legal rules and the legal articles into the logical representation with efficiently and verifiably. But actually, this work needs much time, labor, and expertise, and it is very hard to change these logical expressions when the law was changed. And the second obstacle is scalability. There is a huge difference between concrete cases and abstract legal rules. So this logical system cannot handle many different types of cases. It can only handle a very small number of cases, such as 100. This system is set to resolve a database just including 121 trade secret cases. Well, the number is very limited, but it also has many advantages because this system transforms the legal rules into expressions. So the computer-made decision by such expression is very explainable, and human can check the decision step by step. So it is advantages. And now we can look to another approach. It is a machine learning approach. This approach this approach takes the legal decision making as a task classification task. So the input is the case's information, and it will be encoded as many vectors, as you can see in this picture. And the label is the legal decision. For example, in criminal cases, the labels may be two types of classes, guilty or not guilty. And in the European Human Rights Court, the label can be violated or not violated. And also in criminal cases, there can be multiple classes. Every label is a type of crime, such as thieves, robs, killing people, or hurting people, or something else. So this approach solves the two main problems of logic-based AI. The machine learning doesn't need to formalize legal rules, so it can automate processing and learning from the legal texts. So there is no need the legal expert to teach the machine how to learn these legal rules. And also it has the high scalability. It can handle a larger amount of legal cases. For example, in China, there are millions of criminal cases. The machine learning can easily handle all of the millions of cases. It also have a high accuracy. For example, as you see below, the work in 2070s on European Court of Human Rights, they achieved accuracy about 88%. And in China, the criminal cases accuracy approaching the 78%. And in US, there's also a very high accuracy. But there is a main disadvantage of machine learning because we all know that the machine learning is a black box, so it cannot explain how itself makes such a decision, and it will give no reasons to that decision. So we can go into the second part of my presentation. So what is the explainability requirement in legal AI and in many other circumstances? Because the explainability is a common problem in many different areas. Actually, there exist some legal requirements of explainability. So, for example, in European Union, the GDPR Article 13 and 414 that is related to the explanation. For example, the Article 13 require that the data processor must provide meaningful information about the logic of the AI decision making. And there is a recital 71 of the GDPR. It says the customers and the users have a right to obtain an explanation of the decision reached after such assessment of the decision by AI. We can also see the similar requirement in China, the Personal Information Protection Law, the Article 24. It requires the personal information processor to ensure the transparency of the decision making and ensure the fairness and impartiality of the result. And when the individual want to know how their personal information was processed, it can have a right to request the personal information processor to make explanations. Such a legal requirement in Europe and in China are the requirements to the platform in business area. But we can turn our eyes into the court. Actually, in court, there naturally exists the explainability. For example, in the European Court of Human Rights, the judges are required to state their reasons on which they are based to make their decisions. And in China, the Civil Procedure Law, Article 155, said that when the judges make a written judgment, the judges shall state the result of judgment and reasoning for entering such a decision. It includes the facts, reasons, and law applied to and the reason in the judgment. So the legal AI community has realized the problem of explainability. There are many works trying to improve their explainability of their AI, such as we can look on the right side is a heat map of attention mechanism. So there are many words, and there are many different colors. It can be used to tell which word and which words the AI pay more attention to. The color be deeper. It means the AI pay more attention to such words. For example, the slight injury, 轻伤 in Chinese, means that in a criminal case, the people was hurt slightly, and it will lead the AI to make a decision of guilty. And there are also other ways to improve explainability, such as to use a linear corner, to use an interpretable model, and to substitute the deep learning model, and to improve the explainability. But there is a problem. These explainability approaches really make sense to judges. If you give such a heat map to the judges, or to the publicity, or to the plaintiff or defendant, where they trust this explainability. I think this question is very important. So we can move into the third part of my presentation. The AI researchers, they work on their work to improve the explainability and to build the AI model. But actually, do they really know how judges will make their decisions? It seems to be a simple question, but actually is very vague sometimes, because we usually assume that judges will make decisions strictly according to the rules and to the legal reasoning, to the logic. But actually, judges can make decisions by intuition or by deliberation. Well, in here, the deliberation means the legal reasoning. So actually, the intuition and deliberation is two very different and contrasting process. The intuition is automatic and heuristic-based and really undemanding of computational capacity. Deliberation is a mental operation, recurring effort, motivation, and need the human to do the execution of learning rules. So actually, there are many judges report that they have the experience of make decision by intuition. For example, the judge Hutchinson in US, he described that the judging process may be several parts. The first one is brooding about the case's fact, and then he will have an intuition of the decision, and then try to use the logic and use his mind to search for the appropriate legal rules to apply to support his intuition. So he called this mental process as self-reports in judgment. And there are also research shows that the intuition by judges can be surprisingly accurate sometimes, especially in cases very simple and cases involving ethics and morality. For example, we can look in the left side. It's a very simple civil case of lending money. A lending money to B, the amount is 500 yuan. But B failed to return this money back in time, so it should be in court. I think not only the judges, but we, such as ordinary people, can make appropriate judgment. And the right side is criminal cases involving the ethics and morality. It actually is a case I showed it before. Is a stolen case that is very easily for a judge to make decision. But sometimes intuition may have difficult in many complex cases. So at this time, the judges need to use deliberation to solve these complex cases. For example, as we can see below, is international economic law cases. Is that a Chinese company A signed a contract about importing goods with German company B. The contract was guaranteed by Bank C. So after that, the goods were carried by cargo ship D, and they buy an insurance. The insurance was issued by the insurance company E. During the process of transportation, the goods are totally damaged by typhoon. Now, which company shall be liable for the compensation to A? I think it's really a complicated problem. Even the judges, they need to use many rules, to use logic, and to step by step to make their decisions. At this time, the intuition cannot lead to the right decision. But after a long time training, very skilled judges' intuition may also solve this problem. So as we can see, the process of judges making decisions is very complicated. It was described as an intuition override model. First of all, the judges will generally make their decisions by intuition. And making decisions without intuition is impossible. But in many times, judges will use logic and rules to review and override their intuition. So actually, it is very hard to determine what judges will use in the real decision-making process. I think it's very similar to the deep learning model. We actually don't know the deep learning model how to make decision, how their mathematical process goes. But actually, we don't know how judges will make decisions as well. So
you have 3 minutes left. Sorry, super interesting.
Okay.
But time runs fast.
Yeah, I will move quickly. So how do judges explain their decision? They never explain how they will finish their decision in mind, but they just use logic and rules to explain, to give a paragraph or to give a sentence about how this legal decision was made by legal rules. For example, as we can say, this is an example how judges will give an explanation. On the right side, the judges don't need to express his process in mind. He just need to use a rule and the logic to improve that the decision was right. So we can draw a conclusion that the judges never need to explain their actual physiological process, but only need to give explanation with rules and convincing reasons. I think it will give many suggestions to the legal AI. Well, I think to legal AI, we don't need to know the parameters inside the black box of machine learning, and the legal AI should be developed to explain their decision like judges, such as to give a sentence of explanation. So there is also a suggestion for judges to use legal AI. They should give their decision independently first, and then use the legal AI to check their decision, because the judge's decision will be influenced by when knowing the outcome. It is an empirical study by Guthrie, and because the time is limited, I will not have enough time to explain about it. So thank you all for listening. Yeah.